I'm joined now by Kayla Patrick, an analyst with the Education Trust, to help us understand this better. Kayla, thanks for joining us on this really important topic. I saw this headline yesterday. I said we got to do a story on it because it is incredibly troubling. Having children myself, one of which is entering kindergarten right now, knowing so many kids basically are going to be so far behind, and who knows what that's going to do really, right, for their future. Let's take a look at the map that the New York Times published. It shows 10 states lost a full 15% of their kindergartners from public schools. The concentrations were actually even higher, of course, in inner cities and places with poor internet access. What is your reaction to this latest study, Kayla?
I think this is a really important study, and it highlights what we've been hearing from Black and Latino and low-income families all along, right? And so some of their fears have to do with the pandemic. COVID has absolutely hit Black and brown communities and communities of low income backgrounds really, really hard. And it's created lots of stress, not only economic stress, but the stress that comes with death and illness. But also these families have been concerned about the social, emotional well-being of their children as well, right? And so they're really concerned about their kids being socially, emotionally safe in these school buildings. And they really haven't been for quite some time, even before the pandemic, right? So Black and Latino students are less likely to have access to a high quality education in every way that matters. And so this map really shows that Black and Latino parents are concerned about sending their kids back into schools.
I'm happy you brought this up, right? Because I want to talk about the inequality, the disparity that already existed even before this pandemic. So when you think about now these numbers that are coming out in the midst of this pandemic, it is even more troubling, right? You got 61% of students, Black and brown students, they met none of the 4 ACT college readiness benchmarks. 43% of students did not have access to college readiness courses. They were twice as likely to employ first-year teachers, pay teachers an average of $5,000 yet less. 1.6 million students attending school with a sworn law enforcement officer present, but no school counselor. You think about the disparity that already existed before this pandemic and what this could do now, missing out on kindergarten education. Let me read something else for you from the New York Times, talking about the importance of kindergarten. For many students, it is their introduction to school. They are taught to cooperate and to identify numbers and letters. They learn early phonics and number sense, the concept of bigger and smaller quantities. And kindergarten is often where children are first diagnosed with disabilities like autism spectrum disorder. Talk about the impact here, Kayla.
Yes, I think this is important for kids all across the spectrum. Like you said, students are Black and Latino students and students from low-income backgrounds are less likely to have access to that affordable pre-K. So for many of them, kindergarten is their first time actually in a classroom where they can learn these skills. But I'm really optimistic that we can overcome some of these opportunity gaps. The federal government is sending $125 billion with a B dollars to schools across the country, and they can use some of these funds to really start to solve some of these inequities, the ones that existed before the pandemic and the ones that are a result of the pandemic. So one of the only requirements of this money is that they use at least 20% to help kids get back on grade level. And this is really important in districts like Miami, where over half of the students are below grade level in math. Right. And so we're really hoping that districts like Miami will use strategies like targeted intensive tutoring to get those students back on grade level, but also use those funds to really solve some of the opportunity gaps that we've seen before, the ones that you mentioned, right? Making sure that these students have access to advanced coursework, making sure that they have access to experienced and racially diverse teachers, and making sure they have access to high quality pre-K programs. All of those things will be very important.
So can we reverse the damage that has been done?
Yes, I'm optimistic that we can. We can do these, when we do these strategies well, it's not just about how much money we're getting, but it's how well we're spending it. So a district like Detroit is getting $3,000 per student just to help them get back on grade level. And we know that targeted intensive tutoring can cost as little as $900 per student, right? So we want to see districts like that implement tutoring programs. That means that tutors are working with a small group of students over the course of the year to really help them fill those gaps. they may have missed over the last year or two that they've been at home and virtually learning.
Kayla, I'm going to take your optimism and I'm going to run with it because I'm really hoping you're right here. I am really hoping you're right. Kayla Patrick, thank you. Great to see you.